Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly wild business case study. We're going to reconstruct the journey of an incredibly unlikely industrial titan. We're talking about a man who stepped into an industry he knew absolutely nothing about, took over a completely distressed and failing asset, and somehow managed to entirely reshape manufacturing history. Get ready, because this is an absolute masterclass in pivoting and technical reconstruction. I mean, it sounds like the setup to a joke, right? How exactly does a highly successful 19th century shirt manufacturer end up building one of the most famous and globally dominant firearms empires in history? It's a fascinating question. And the real takeaway here is that sometimes being a total outsider gives you the exact perspective you need to see potential in a product that the so-called experts have completely given up on.
Section 1. The Shirtmaker steps in. To set the stage for one of the most ironic partnerships in American industry, we have to look at the stark, almost comical contrast between these men. On one side, you've got Horace Smith and Daniel B. Wesson. Now, these guys are legendary, masterful gunsmiths. They literally live and breathe firearm mechanics. On the other side, you have Oliver Winchester. He is a clothing manufacturer, a shirt maker who just happened to be looking for a solid place to invest some capital. They could not have been more different in their expertise, but a really strange twist of fate brought them together in the same room.
So that twist of fate actually started with a concept from 1848 by a man named Walter Hunt. Hunt had designed something called a volitional repeater, which was basically an early lever-action firearm concept. Now, the design was incredibly rough, and a man named Cortland Palmer held the patents for it. But the sheer potential of this repeating mechanism caught the eye of our expert gunsmiths Smith and Wesson. They knew they needed serious financial backing to make this complex manufacturing process a reality. So, an agent named J.W. Post was brought in, and he successfully pitched the investment to our shirt maker, Oliver Winchester. And just like that, these wildly different men were in business together.
Section 2. The Volcanic Arms Investment. Well, their first official corporate venture together almost immediately went off the rails. By 1855, they formalized their partnership by creating the Volcanic Arms Company. And because he provided the crucial capital, Oliver Winchester sat as the majority shareholder. But they had a massive, glaring product problem. The firearms they were manufacturing used this highly awkward, self-contained ammunition known as rocket balls. The design was fundamentally flawed from the jump. The ammunition completely lacked potency because it had a very low powder capacity. And worse than that, it was incredibly prone to causing mechanical failures, basically binding up against the frames and stopping cylinder rotation dead in its tracks. The product, quite simply, just didn't work well.
And the production numbers paint a pretty grim picture of this failure. Under the Volcanic Arms brand, they managed to produce fewer than 2,000 lever-action pistols and rifles. That's it. Sales were abysmal, market acceptance was practically non-existent, and the company was bleeding money really, really fast.
Section 3. Smith and Wesson depart.
So when the ship starts sinking, what do the industry experts do? Well, they bail. Facing total bankruptcy in 1855, Smith and Wesson look at this lever-action tubular magazine design and decide it is a completely lost cause. They liquidate their shares, sell out, and completely abandon the enterprise. They packed right up and moved back to Springfield to focus entirely on small-caliber metallic cartridge revolvers, actually partnering with Roland White to use a bore-through-cylinder patent. The master gunsmiths washed their hands of the lever-action repeater, leaving Oliver Winchester, the shirt maker, holding the bag of a bankrupt, failing company.
Section 4. The New Haven reorganization. And this is where the story gets really incredible. Oliver Winchester doesn't panic. He doesn't write off his investment as a loss. Instead, he executes a brilliant, highly calculated business pivot. Let's trace this. In 1855, Volcanic is formed and rapidly fails, prompting Smith and Wesson to leave. Winchester, who is now in total control, just takes over the factory. He physically moves the manufacturing works to New Haven, Connecticut. By 1857, he completely reorganizes the bankrupt assets into a brand new entity, the New Haven Arms Company. He takes over the distressed asset, streamlines the operations, and sets his sights squarely on fixing the technical flaws the experts left behind. Ultimately, this methodical restructuring leads to the formal establishment of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company in 1866. Section 5. Birth of the Henry. But how exactly did a clothing manufacturer fix the engineering problems that stumped two of the greatest gunsmiths in history? Well, he oversaw three really crucial steps. Step 1,
He realized the ammunition was the root cause of the failure, so the awkward rocket ball was entirely discarded in favor of far superior, much more robust metallic cartridges. Step 2. The early volcanic pistols had relied on an iron frame that just wasn't working out, so Winchester's operation shifted the design to a distinctive and highly durable brass frame. And step 3, with the mechanics finally sound and the ammunition actually potent, they launched the Henry repeating rifle under the New Haven brand. It was a massive technological breakthrough that finally made the repeating rifle a viable, highly sought-after product.
Section 6. The Winchester Empire. Which brings us to the ultimate triumph of Winchester's calculated risk. I want to read this quote directly from the source material because it perfectly summarizes the grand irony of this whole story. The same design that had proven to be less than successful for Smith & Wesson was to be the launching point for the Winchester arms empire. Think about that for a second. The exact technology that was abandoned by the industry's top experts was reconstructed and refined by a total outsider, a shirtmaker, to achieve absolute global industrial dominance by 1866. It is a stunning reminder that sometimes experts get just a little too close to a problem to see the solution.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. If Horace Smith and Daniel Wesson had just a little more patience, or maybe a little more capital, and they hadn't abandoned the lever action to Oliver Winchester, what would the history of American manufacturing, and indeed the history of the American West, actually look like? It's pretty amazing how a single corporate bankruptcy, a distressed asset, and a shirtmaker's stubborn refusal to quit entirely reshaped history. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning what you know.